They can shoot and kill whoever they want. That is a policy, that is a war crime, and many would argue that's genocide. That is what you're defending today, which is kind of sad.
Do you believe? Answer this question.
No.
I'm saying I condemn that. And
finally, a
hold on.
People in Gaza. Are they starving people in Gaza?
What would you answer me something?
No,
they're not starving people in Gaza.
So Cindy McCain, is she anti-Israel as well? The head of the World Food Programme, widow of the most pro-Israel senator in our lifetime. She has said that people are starving to death in Gaza. They're blocking our aid trucks.
Whose fault is that?
Is she lying, Cindy McCain? She's blaming Israel. Is she lying?
People in Gaza may be starving.
Is she lying? Is what I asked.
No, let me. Damn it, Mehdi, would
Answer
you ask
question.
Then don't ask it 4 times. Yes,
Answer it the first time and I have to repeat it.
Do me a favor, stop, let me speak.
Please.
Yes, there's starvation in Gaza, but gosh darn it, Israel has gone out of their way to allow aid in. And who stopped the aid?
All right, y'all, buckle up and hold on to your popcorn because things are about to get spicy. Part 2 of Mehdi's Unfiltered from Zeteo is here. And oh boy, Joe Walsh is back in the hot seat, squaring off against the one and only Mehdi Hassan, who, let's be real, doesn't know the meaning of holding back. If you missed part 1, don't sweat it, I've got you covered. It'll be waiting for you at the end of this video, but trust me, you're gonna want to see this showdown. The topic, Israel and Gaza and the never-ending conflict that's got everyone heated. Joe's doing his best out here to duck, dodge, and deflect, like his life depends on it. So without further ado, grab your snacks and let's dive into this roller coaster of drama, truth, and a whole lot of verbal gymnastics that you don't want to miss. Let's go.
You say they don't have a policy of doing that.
And see, you won't acknowledge that. Can you say yes or no to that?
What, yes or no to?
Does Hamas have a history of doing the exact opposite?
Hamas has a history. Hold on.
Target Israeli civilians?
Hamas has, yes, it has in the past. For example, when I was a teenager, I was condemning bus bombings, if you remember, in the 90s, right? But hold on.
As a policy,
this is
though,
pure
Mehdi.
whataboutism, Joe.
No, it's not.
It is.
As a policy. That's the policy of Hamas. The governing entity of Gaza.
I'm the only one here who has condemned civilian killings on both sides. You've called it a mistake, which I find grotesque. Let me read to you about Israeli policy. This is from Haaretz last year, Israeli newspaper. You're saying you're not aware of this. Let me tell you this. An Israeli soldier relays that a senior commander asked him to shoot an unarmed man with a white flag. He said he's got a white flag. He says, I don't care, shoot him, it's an order. Another Israeli soldier told Plus 972 there were no restrictions on ammunition. We could just shoot to relieve our boredom. We don't need to explain. You just shoot. When soldiers see someone approaching, it's permissible to shoot them. We can shoot a young girl, an old woman. This is testimony from Israeli soldiers, Joe, that it's a free fire zone. They can shoot and kill whoever they want. That is a policy, that is a war crime, and many would argue that's genocide. That is what you're defending today, which is kind of sad.
Do you believe? Answer this question.
No.
I'm saying I condemn that. And
finally, a war
hold
crime.
on.
It's easy to say I condemn it.
No, man.
Why won't you call it a war crime? I'll say what Hamas did on October 7th was a war crime. Will you say what I've described a war crime?
Everyone's
watching. I'm the only one condemning war crimes on all sides.
Hold on. Maybe a war crime. I don't trust some international group who
You don't trust Palestinians who talk about being raped and tortured in captivity.
I don't trust an international group with an inherent anti-Israel bias to tell me that's a war crime.
Is the International Criminal
Israel,
Court
by the way,
anti-Israel bias?
Oh God, yeah. Like the UN has, like the UN has an interest.
You just made a claim. This is very Trumpy right now. You're just throwing things around. What is the ICC's evidence of anti-Semitism?
Do me a favor, do me one favor. Don't call it Trumpian. Don't call it MAGA.
Because it's so fascinating to see that you are borrowing.
I think the United Nations has an anti-Israel bias.
That's a different answer. I said it's the ICC. Where's the ICC's anti-Israel bias?
That's not Trumpian.
I don't want to debate that right now. I'm asking Israel, because it's a long debate. This is a very simple one. Where's your evidence of ICC anti-Israel bias? Most of the people they've indicted are African leaders. They haven't indicted anyone from Israel ever. They also indicted Hamas commanders.
Because I do not believe Israel's committing a genocide, and I think they were out of line saying that Israel's committing a genocide.
ICC never said they're committing a genocide.
What ICC said?
The International Criminal Court said he's guilty. They charged him
with war crimes,
with willful killing of civilians and starvation.
Charged two.
Right? And guess who backed them up? Guess who was their advisor? Theodore Myron.
Charged two.
Holocaust survivor.
Charged two.
Israeli judge. Is he anti-Israel as well?
Charged two. Netanyahu.
They charged Netanyahu and Gallant.
You think Benjamin Netanyahu and Gallant have purposely tried to destroy, kill, and starve?
That is what the evidence that the ICC have amassed.
That's what the ICC has
And your argument is, instead of engaging with the evidence, like the evidence I've given you, is to say that, hold on, let me finish that, anti-Israel bias. That's just Trumpian.
Mehdi,
you're not engaging in the facts.
Because you know what you've done? You know what you've done again? You're not the ICC, I'm not. You know what you've done? This is what you do. I love you, you're great, but you will grab example after example, and you'll tell me that factual instances, and you'll tell me this is proof that this is Israel's policy. And I'm telling
literally
you,
just read out to you what soldiers say is Israel's
policy is not to target and wipe out and destroy.
And the difference between me and you is you're just opining and I'm giving evidence. How do you know it? I've given you an example.
You're giving me examples.
So far, since this interview began, I've read out to you what the Deputy Speaker said, which you condemned. I've read out to you about a kid being killed, which you apparently... Let me finish. You keep interrupting me and saying I'm interrupting you.
Bullshit.
A kid being killed, you've condemned it. I've shown you a video of a grandmother being killed. You said you don't know anything about it. I've read out quotes from Israeli soldiers, and I've quoted the International Freaking Criminal Court. And you said... they're just anti-Israel.
Tell me
that does sound Trumpy.
Well, they are anti-Israel.
I've condemned
every.
Stay here all day. Where's your evidence that the ICC is anti-Israel?
I'll condemn every example you've given me.
Where is the evidence ICC is anti-Israel?
My evidence that they're not is the way that Israel has conducted this war. Period. Trying to move civilians out of the way. Leaflets to notify civilians to get out. We're going to bomb here. Going out of the way. Clearing hospitals.
They destroyed most of the hospitals in Gaza. Just stop this.
Why did they destroy hospitals?
You haven't answered my question.
Have they not given warning?
It's very funny that you haven't answered my question, but I'm going to go back to it. You've known me for years. I'm going to go back to it. What's your evidence that the International Criminal Court has an anti-Israel bias?
I think they've exhibited anti-Israel bias because I do not believe the evidence they presented justified that willfully Netanyahu and Gallant committed war crimes.
You've read all the evidence. The evidence is there.
I got to go back, but yeah, I read a lot of it.
Their legal advisor, the guy who supported them, the guy who supported them is a man named Judge Theodore Myron, who's a Holocaust survivor and an Israeli judge. He said these charges. Is he anti-Israel as well?
I'd feel this.
No, but is he anti-Israel as well? You don't say you disagree with the court. You go for this lazy, they're anti-Israel, they're anti-Semitic.
I do disagree with the court.
That's fine. But what's the evidence that they're anti-Israel?
I think they've always said.
It's just a conspiracy. It's just ad hominem. And that's why I say it sounds Trumpy. You just throw out anti-Israel. Based on what? You've got no evidence. I consider it all day. What's your evidence for the ICC?
Because I think they had it in for Netanyahu.
Based on what? Who cares what you think?
What's your evidence? I got to go back. When I look at what was put forward.
They've charged mostly African leaders, and in this case, they've charged Hamas and Israel. And your argument is, instead of engage with the copious evidence that the prosecutors brought, that the judges have supported.
You look at the way Israel.
The evidence is there. You don't want to hear starvation.
You look at the way
they're starving people in Gaza. Are they starving people in Gaza?
What would you answer me something?
No,
they're not starving people in Gaza.
So Cindy McCain, is she anti-Israel as well, the head of the World Food Programme? Widow of the most pro-Israel senator in our lifetime. She has said that people are starving to death in Gaza. They're blocking our aid trucks.
Whose fault is that?
Is she lying, Cindy McCain? She's blaming Israel. Is she lying?
People in Gaza may be starving.
Is she lying is what I asked.
No, let me... Damn it, Mehdi, would you ask a fuck? Then don't ask it 4 times. Yes,
Answer it the first time and I don't have to repeat it.
Do me a favor, stop, let me speak.
Please.
Yes, there's starvation in Gaza, but gosh darn it, Israel has gone out of their way to allow aid in. And who's stopped the aid? I mean, for 2-3 years, who's robbed the aid trucks and all the aid coming in? Hamas. Terrorists.
According to the US government, the Biden administration you supported, they didn't present evidence of Hamas.
Oh, gosh, yes,
there were criminal gangs that Israel actually supports, according to the Israeli press. But let me ask you this, because you're very supportive of Israel. That's why I want to do this interview, and then you don't want to actually defend them. You want to make it about Hamas. Just before, I got to ask you this.
I do. No, stop. I defend the way Israel's fought this war.
Even though,
period.
Even though every example I've given, you say you condemn it, but at the end you still support them.
Even though there are examples of outrageous and atrocious behavior.
I had Ehud Olmert.
It's not the policy of the IDF
I've had Ehud Olmert. By the way, whether it's your policy or not, a war crime is a war crime, Joe, by the way, just to break that to you. It doesn't matter what your policy is. If you commit a war crime, that's a crime. That's just so you know international law. I've had Ehud Olmert on the show, former Prime Minister of Israel. I've had Ami Ayalon on the show, former head of Shin Bet, on that screen. And they've supported Israel, but they've also criticized Israel's, in many ways, in a way I don't hear someone like you criticizing Israel. You tweeted recently, I'll swim across the ocean to defend Israel. You're very gung-ho in your support for Israel in a way that Israelis are not. They're like, our country is messing up big time. And then there's you. I haven't heard you criticize so many things Israel are doing. You are today because I've asked you to. But I went through your Twitter thread. I went through your Twitter, Joe.
No.
Let me just ask you.
Mehdi,
I just want to ask, just want to check your views.
I don't.
So let's check, so viewers know your views. So
generally, I don't.
You don't criticize Israel?
No, I will, but generally, I don't.
So, for example, 40,000 Palestinians in the West Bank have been driven from their homes. The Israelis said you can't come back. That's a war crime. Do you condemn that? Just in the last few weeks. Do you criticize that?
What do you mean they've been driven from their homes?
They've been pushed out by the Israeli military. 40,000 people, the size of a town in your old district in Illinois, just gone. And they've been told you cannot come back. Netanyahu's sitting in their house in a photo. You would go mad if Vladimir Putin was sitting in a Ukrainian home.
Mehdi, I don't understand what. Pull back for a minute. After October 7th, what would you have had Israel?
The West Bank has nothing to do with October 7th. That's why I specifically asked about the West Bank, because I know you're obsessed with going back to October 7th. Hamas as if the world began.
I'm sorry.
The West Bank.
Stop.
Hamas does not run the West Bank.
I didn't know you were talking about the West Bank.
I'm talking about the West Bank. 40,000 people driven from their homes by violent settlers. You've been watching the violent settlers, crazy people. I assume you don't agree with them. They make Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trump look moderate, the far-right Israeli settlers.
They are as close as we've got to radical Islamist terrorists.
And they are driving people out of their homes, 40,000 people. Do you condemn that? I've not seen you say a word about that on your social media and your shows. That's happening right now. I don't hear you criticizing Israel for it.
I don't.
You don't criticize Israel for driving 40,000 people from their homes?
No, I don't. Look, Israel has to, they're not going to make the same mistake they made in Gaza.
They're doing exactly what they did in Gaza, actually. They're displacing people from their homes.
What do you mean they're doing what they did in Gaza?
Well, 1 million people have been driven from their homes in Gaza.
And
now we have 50,000 people.
Why?
Because Israel is breaking international law.
Oh, not because the ruling governing entity of Gaza declared war on Israel on October 7th.
Even if that were true...
And that's not true?
No, there was a war before October 7th.
No.
I know Joe Walsh's world began on October 7th, but there's been
No,
occupation
I know
since
that.
1967. Hamas didn't even exist in 1967. So the war didn't begin on October the 7th. But my question is, you're saying now today...
Okay,
let me ask you this.
They initiated the latest stage of this war.
200 kids killed in the West Bank since October 7th. Are you okay with that?
No, I'm not okay.
Israel? Okay, do you condemn Israel for killing 200 children in the West Bank?
I'd have to know, Mehdi.
You'd have to know how the children were killed.
Yes, I'd have to know how the children was killed. Who's responsible for the children
killed? The Israelis are.
Just like the Israelis are.
Yeah,
just like I'd want to know every Israeli, every settler killed in the West Bank. Look, Mehdi, this is
200 kids killed. And you can't bring yourself to condemn that.
I do condemn it. I want to know.
You did just a moment ago. You literally did not.
I don't know who killed those 200
Israel
kids.
did, according to every international observer, human rights, the UN.
Show me.
Show me what?
Show
me children.
Show me every instant where the two. And I'll show you a terrorist attack where 6 Israelis.
There is not true. There are no. Many of these cases involve children.
No,
who
I'll show you a terrorist attack where Israelis
You're just making stuff up now.
No, I'm not.
You are. I said to you, many kids are killed, and you just assume there's a terrorist attack. No.
Mehdi, you make this sound like a one-sided affair forever. I know the war's been going on forever.
Maybe that's telling.
But hold. What do you mean? Maybe that's telling.
It is one-sided.
Stop.
One side is the occupier. The other side is occupied. One side has nuclear weapons and is killing thousands of children. The other side does not kill thousands of children.
Let me ask you a question. Answer this. There's no peace in that region. Why? Is it completely one-sided?
Because of Benjamin Netanyahu.
That's why.
No, those are his words, not mine.
No, that's why.
Those are his words, not mine.
No, I'm asking.
It's funny because you said recently...
I'm not...
I'm glad you brought this up. You said there would be peace in the Middle East tomorrow if the Palestinians wanted peace and agreed Israel has a right to exist. That's all it would take. And that's all. It's on the Palestinians, you said. Israel has always wanted peace. Ehud Olmert came on my show. He doesn't agree with you. Ehud Barak doesn't agree. There are Israeli politicians who say, actually, no, Israeli governments have blocked peace.
Let me ask you something.
Netanyahu said recently, no, Joe, you don't get to ask me a question.
No, let me answer.
No, then I'm going to answer it 4 times.
Let me answer.
Answer my question.
I'm not going to accept
Benjamin Netanyahu says, I'm the guy who blocked peace, blocked a Palestinian state for decades. He's bragging about blocking peace. And you're pretending that Israel is the block.
Hold on. I'm asking you.
I can read you the quote.
I'm asking you. I want to make sure I heard you correct.
Go on.
There is not peace in that region. Are you telling me that's all on Israel?
It's not all on Israel, but it's mostly on Israel.
It's mostly on Israel. Going back 70, 80 years.
Oh, of course. If you want to get into 1948, we could do that. There'll be another show. We don't have time for that today. But in terms of the last couple of decades of the quote-unquote peace process, Netanyahu said, his words, everyone knows that I am the one who for decades blocked the establishment of a Palestinian state. He's saying it out loud. And then you go on Twitter and say it's all the Palestinians' fault. That's absurd.
It is, because the Hamas, the PLO, majorities of the Palestinian people for years and decades do not believe Israel has a right to exist.
That's not
do you
true.
acknowledge that?
No,
that is true, Mehdi.
Arafat, in 1993, the PLO recognizes the state of Israel's right to exist in peace and security. That was 1993.
It's part of Hamas.
And who ended that peace process? Netanyahu.
It's part of... Who ended that peace process?
Rabin's widow blames Netanyahu. She says my husband's dead.
Rabin's widow does.
Yeah.
And Arafat walked away from it as well.
That you are more pro-Netanyahu than Rabin, Barak, Olmert? It's weird that Joe Walsh is more pro-Netanyahu than Israeli leaders who blame Netanyahu for this.
I'm pro-Israel.
No.
I'm pro-Israel.
Because the Israelis don't agree with you. Thousands of Israelis took
And I do not sit in front of you and say that this is all one-sided, like you pretty much say.
Joe, you're lying.
Crap,
Okay, I'm going to read the quote to the viewers. It is on the Palestinians.
Yes.
That's what you just said.
I stand by that.
So you just lied.
No, hold on.
Joe,
I didn't
10 seconds
just
ago
lie.
you said I didn't say I put it all on the Palestinians. I'm going to
I
read the quote
don't.
again.
Mehdi, I don't put it all
yes,
on the Palestinian
it is on the
people.
Palestinians. Israel has always wanted peace.
Yes.
That is putting it all on the Palestinians.
No, hold on. No, it's
I'll
not.
read it a third time.
No,
That's
don't.
all it would
Mehdi,
take.
don't
You
read
can't
it a
pull
third
my
time.
questions out
Let
of
me
my hand.
answer the freaking question. Yes. The Palestinian people have to say that. And if they say that, Mehdi, then the Israeli people have to accept that.
They have said it multiple times.
Bull crap.
Well,
if the
you don't know what you're talking about.
No, you don't. If the Palestinian
No, I can give you evidence.
If
You've
the
not given any evidence
Palestinian
today.
people said tomorrow, if they all rose
They
up...
said it in 1993, 1988, the Arab Peace Initiative, 2002, 2007,
Bullshit.
2017.
It was part of the PLO chapter
It's
as of
said
a few
multiple
years ago.
times.
It's still part of Hamas's chapter.
That's Hamas, not the PLO. Let me ask
It
one
was
last
part
question
of the
because we're out of
PLO
time.
charter.
You don't support a two-state solution.
No.
You have attacked the idea of a two-state solution. So what do you propose, that millions of Palestinians just live under occupation and apartheid with no voting rights, no equality?
It's not occupation. It's not apartheid.
Okay, you call whatever word you want. Palestinians living with no voting rights, no equality, no freedom, indefinitely. That's the Joe Walsh solution.
Palestinians were given Gaza.
That's not what I asked.
Nah, I'm getting to my answer. Palestinians were given Gaza, and look what they did with it. The Palestinians were given the West Bank.
When were they given the West Bank? You're lying, Joe. They were never given the West Bank. Israel has occupied the West Bank since 1967.
They were given
Israel controls everything in the
West
West Bank.
I know that. After, again, the history is littered with Israel
But I'm
being
not even
attacked.
asking history. I'm asking future.
I'm telling you.
What do you think should happen to 3 million Palestinians living in the West Bank?
It should be Israel.
Alright folks, let's break this down because phew, this debate was a roller coaster and Joe Walsh, well, let's just say he didn't exactly stick the landing. Here's why Mehdi Hassan came out on top in this free exchange. Mehdi brought the receipts, Joe brought the deflections. Mehdi came armed with facts, international law, and testimonies from Israel soldiers and officials that painted a damning picture of Israel's action in the West Bank and Gaza. Meanwhile, Joe spent most of the time dodging, deflecting, and spinning in circus. When Mehdi pressed him on whether Israel's action in West Bank, like displacing 40,000 Palestinians and killing 200 children, were justified, Joe couldn't give a straight answer. He still can't. Number 2, Joe's unwavering support for Israel left no room for accountability. While Mehdi consistently highlighted the human toll of the conflict and called out war crimes, Joe doubled down on defending Israel's right to exist without addressing the moral and legal consequences of his actions. Even when presented with evidence of Israel soldiers admitting to shooting civilians for fun, Joe couldn't bring himself to condemn it. Instead, he sorted to what Mehdi aptly called trumpet tactics, throwing out claims of anti-Israel bias without evidence. The big question, if the West Bank is under Israel occupation and millions of Palestinians are living without freedom, equality, or voice, how can that possibility be justified? Joe didn't have an answer, and honestly, neither does anyone else who tries to defend the indefensible. Don't miss the full debate. It's a masterclass in holding someone accountable while they squirm. If you missed part 1, it's right here on the bottom left of your screen. Go watch it. Trust me, you don't want to miss that. Like, share, and subscribe for more Unfiltered Truth Bombs, and I'll see you in the comments. Until next time, y'all, stay curious, stay critical, and don't let anyone spin you in circles.